have a group of people who is less educated, which they can easily manipulate to serve their agenda. It makes sense. To me,
John,
it makes sense. That's how I speculate.
I know you, with your police work, look at the world different. Like a lawyer goes to law school to look at the world through different eyes, from a different perspective. It would seem to me that it could be that they are playing into Agenda 21, since the government
Agenda
is aiding
21,
and
the
abetting.
Georgia Guidestones, the powers that be, they want to kill off 95% of the people on the planet, ending up with 5 million. That's well known among those of us who study these matters. And yes, they are smart enough, and they have no scruples whatsoever about killing off 6 billion people.
No, not at all, not at all. And like you said, Henning, this was done on purpose. Whether it had the effect that they intended or not, does it really matter at this point? I mean, this is crazy. I see these news stations broadcasting things from, like I said, from the Grand Banks all the way down to the south, of just these enormous fish kills, and they say it as if, it's the oxygen level that's decreased in the water. Well, then why haven't we heard this any other year where we've seen this just enormous fish kill? The only thing that happened at the same time that all this happened was the Gulf disaster.
Yeah,
and why aren't more people raising hell about this? That's my question.
Blue algae, they can become very poisonous.
Mm-hmm.
And they have been a problem in the North Atlantic, and they have also been a problem in the Mid-Atlantic. But we didn't see fish kills, did we?
No.
And
that's
the
point.
fish is swimming in that water, right?
Right, absolutely
so,
right.
It got to be the chemical pollution. It has to be. Because this has been going on since February 23rd. And all the way up to June 12th, where the Gulf Stream finally ceased. So in all that time, the oil has been pumping out into the Atlantic Ocean. And now it's staying inside because the loop current is dead. And now we actually have, I made another calculation, and this really points out how big this is. And that is actually my kicker in this, and that is, if we imagine that all this crude oil, all these 300 billion, almost 301 billion barrels of crude oil is spread out on a sea surface 1 inch thick, it will have the same area as 5.7 times the size of India. That's how much space this takes up.
That's amazing. And it really does, like I said, if I look at it from a biblical standpoint, and I try to fit this into some end times prophecy, I mean, it really does kind of, to me, it totally fits right in, and that's just it. It takes the breath right out of me, and where do you go from here? What do we do? I mean, this seems to be a terminal event, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the Gulf Stream stopping is a kill shot, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's over. That's how I see it. It's over. It's game over. There is only one thing we can do now. That is prepare.
Right.
This is already set in motion.
So, John, how long do you think we've got before we really start seeing things go to hell in a handbasket?
Well, the fall harvest is being gathered right now, so it's in the Northern Hemisphere, so we've dodged that bullet. The British Isles may be the first canary in the mine. If they have a winter closer to that of Moscow than what they normally have, that will be a wake-up call for people who don't know what you and I know. Mm-hmm. And that could be the case, because look at how close. London is just about the same distance from the North Pole as Moscow is. Now that the Gulf Stream's gone, they're going to take a hard hit in terms of winter 2010, 2011. And that should be a huge wake-up call for everybody when it comes time to plant the spring crops, that it's going to be the beginning of a huge disaster, 2011.
Henning,
most of the grains, by the way, are grown in the northern hemisphere. I mean, probably 90% of all the grains are grown in the northern hemisphere. Not that much in the hemisphere by comparison.
Henning, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, John, you were talking about that the Gulf Stream was diminishing. Do you think that the Gulf current is diminishing due to the Earth wobble and our magnetic axis are actually changing, that has an effect, that it has diminished? And now we then put in the oil, so the Gulf Stream is becoming a slippery road, and that's why it's going into an eddy now. Do you think that hangs together?
Well, the science that I've been reading is that the Gulf Stream was diminishing because of the introduction of fresh water from melting ice in Greenland and the Antarctic. And that was reducing the salinity, which was screwing up the whole Gulf Stream and making it slow down and lose its mass and velocity. I don't know that the magnetosphere played any role in that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm. Guys, we got a caller in queue. I'm going to bring him on. It's a Skype caller, Skype ID Sun T1203. You're live.
How's it, fellas?
Good, very good.
Well, I'm at a point where everything's brand new for me. My birthday is 12/3/53, and just kind of wanting a general look.
So you're just newly awakened to this?
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot to be hit with all at once.
Yeah, it sure is, and unfortunately, there's really not a lot of time to digest it. It seems.
Well, he can start on my channel. I got 200 videos about the Gulf oil spill, so he will be entertained there.
Yeah, that's true. So, do you have a question?
No, I thought you guys were just doing readings. I'm sorry.
Oh no, we're not doing readings. We're just we're doing our thing. But thank you for the call, sir.
Okay,
I mean, guys, it's interesting at just how fast we're seeing a degradation of things. And I know Griff says November. You know that there's a lot of speak about the November time period being a tipping point, and I'd just like to get your thoughts on that, John and Henning. John, you first. How long do you think before we start to see the society break down?
Well, I'm not going to name any dates.
Right, of course not.
I will say that the first day of winter is December 21st.
Yes.
And we're already seeing, the people I'm in contact with are seeing the season is speeded up. Where we're at right now is about 4 to 6 weeks ahead of where we normally would be the first week of October. And as far north, 200 miles north of the American border in Canada, we're hearing that right here in the Ozark Mountains. We're having frost already the first week of October. That's almost unheard of. It has happened, but it's quite rare. We're about 5 to 6 weeks ahead of where we should be for winter coming on. So the first day of winter is December 21st, and we shall see. In terms of Earth changes, we will continue to see an increase in volcanism, increase in seismic activity, and, of course, these really bizarre weather-related events like the rainfall. You had 12 inches of rain in what period of time?
It was between, it was like 18 hours.
How many hours?
18 hours.
18 hours. Well, that qualifies as a torrential downpour, obviously.
Yeah. Well, put it this way: I was driving to Walmart the next day, John, and there were cars. Apparently, people tried to drive through this, and there were cars in the swales submerged. They had hydroplaned off the road into swales and were submerged. And this was the next day. There were streams. There were streams that looked like whitewater rapids, that were just. When I say like brooks, little brooks, it was amazing. I couldn't believe my eyes with some of this stuff that I saw, and I've never seen it like that here before. Never. Right.
Well, there's going to be more of that as these earth changes become more frequent and more damaging. So without naming any dates, we're considering what it takes to get really prepared to deal with a crisis of this magnitude. We really are out of time.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think, Henning? How much longer do you think we have before we really start seeing the effects? I mean, I know we're starting to see some of the effects already, but when it really starts taking a toll and people, the everyday Joe, can actually identify and say, uh-oh, I think we may be in for it here.
I think it will start in the spring or the summer next year, because right now we will live off the grains we harvest. It is in shelter and it is secured, so there will be a stock up on food for that period. But those crops, those seeds they're going to put into the ground at next season, they ain't going to be anything. So people who are already there kind of have a notion of something is very wrong.
Right.
And they will also have a notion of that summer really don't come.
Well, you know, I noticed this too. And this year, I noticed it was extremely hot. In North Carolina, it was extremely hot this summer. I mean, more so than I've ever experienced. We had a longer chain of 100-degree days than I have ever really experienced, so much so that it had a pretty negative effect on the crops. I know a lot of farmers down here, they do corn. There's the three main crops that they grow here because of the soil. It's corn, cotton, and soybeans. Those are the three main crops that you'll see grown on the east coast of North Carolina. And the corn just took a beating this year because there was very little precipitation, and then there was a ton of heat and sun. I mean, it just cooked them, and it was really devastating to the farmers here. But then couple that with, you know, they harvest what corn they could, and the next crop is cotton. So they plant their cotton, and the cotton comes up, and they're just about ready to harvest the cotton, and we get a monsoon. It's like 13 inches of rain. Some areas in and around my area got 20 inches of rain. And what do you think that does to cotton fields? It washes them away. Exactly right. So not only did these farmers get devastated with their corn crops, but then right behind it, their cotton crops just got decimated too. And I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't take a hit like that. Not a 1-2 punch like that. That's pretty devastating. You know, so I mean, we're seeing it now. We're definitely starting to see the signs now.
I want to add something.
Sure.
Due to the loss of the loop current, that will have a butterfly effect on the wind currents over the North Atlantic Ocean.
That's right.
Because the Gulf Stream is controlling the Passat winds. I don't know, are they called that in English too? We call that in English Passat winds. They are controlled by that. Yeah, and that also will have a negative effect on the jet stream itself. And we have seen that in Russia. We have had this drought and these fires, and we have seen that the jet stream has been split up in actually two rows, one going further south and created the flooding in Pakistan. So I believe that the loss of our Gulf Stream will also alter our wind patterns. Our whole weather system will transform, because if you're pushing in one end, it will affect in the other end too.
What you're saying is exactly right, and I put that in my paper as well, how the Gulf Stream affects the weather 7 miles above the Gulf Stream, and it has impacted the jet stream and caused it to do things that we've never seen it do before. Now,
guys, you know, we've seen that the Gulf Stream has been slowing for quite some time, and I think it was just a matter of time before it reached a catastrophic stoppage. This probably only served to hasten the event. Do you think that's why we've been seeing so much and hearing so much in the media about weather modification, and the fact that all these governments are really playing with the weather, do you think they're trying to minimize the impact, or trying to minimize the recognition factor to the population? What do you think, John?
When I do live presentations, going back to 2004, that's the first thing that comes up in front of a live audience. People want to talk about HAARP. HAARP, being the world's largest radio frequency transmitter, can affect some weather some of the time.